woman by the name of Kelly claims she's been getting repeated motion alerts from a security camera she has set up in her basement. Every time she pulls up the footage to investigate, there's nothing to be found. But on one particular night, what she saw when she reviewed the recording left her completely shaken. Once the video was enhanced and sharpened, a deeply unsettling figure becomes visible, slowly making its way up the basement stairs. According to Kelly, she's the only person living in that house. She insists the footage is completely genuine and has not been tampered with or staged in any way, and she has absolutely no explanation for what that thing could be. So what's your take? On November 22nd, 2021, 2 officers were sent out to sweep a residential property after the tenant grew worried that someone had broken in. The young woman had come home to find her front door hanging wide open, and rather than investigate herself, she did the right thing and dialed the police. The officers showed up and got to work clearing the place room by room, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to run into. What took place over the next several minutes shook both of them to their core, and every second of it was recorded on their body cams.
How many rooms do you have?
2 upstairs and 1 downstairs.
Alright, we're gonna have to go and search the house. Is it okay if we go in?
Yeah, of course.
You don't have any like pets or dogs or anything?
No.
Right. Just stay here, man.
Police, if anyone's here, make yourself known.
Police. Anyone inside?
I'm gonna check downstairs, you get upstairs.
Police. Anyone inside, make yourself known.
Downstairs clear. clear?
Yeah.
Every closet they checked was bare, and the whole house had this hollow, half-empty feel to it despite someone actually living there. The report noted the woman had only moved in roughly a month prior, and before anyone questions why they weren't switching on lights as they went, there's a straightforward answer for that. In an unfamiliar space, hunting for light switches pulls your focus away from where it needs to be. When there could be a threat anywhere, you can't afford that kind of distraction. Then, things started getting weird. Doors began swinging open by themselves just as the officers drew near them. The atmosphere grew thick with unease, their breathing quickened, and then came the footsteps. Heavy, unmistakable footsteps, sounding off right behind them. But each time they spun around, there was absolutely nothing there. No person, no movement, no rational explanation. So what do you do with that? How do you stand there, experience something that undeniably real, and still struggle to accept what it might mean? Like so many clips before it, this one has never been explained. Guy was making his way down a deserted stretch of road in the dead of night, graveyards flanking him on either side. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until his headlights swept across something that sent his pulse through the roof. Standing close to one of the weathered headstones was a woman dressed in white, her long hair draped down over most of her face. She was completely motionless, her back to the road, fixed on the grave in front of her, as though she was there for a reason. The whole scene had this suffocating stillness to it. This next clip comes from a guy named Elijah Carter, a construction worker who's been doing renovation work on a residential property. He spent quite a bit of time on this job, and only now has he stumbled onto something the homeowner never once brought up. Tucked away inside this house is a concealed crawl space, apparently hidden behind a pile of drywall that nobody had gotten around to moving until this particular moment. Since it's not a scheduled workday and he's completely on his own, Elijah decides to venture inside and take a look around. A decision that, as it turns out, he probably should have thought twice about. What follows is the footage he captured himself. See for yourself.
While I came across something that was really cool, and I feel like it sets this house apart. The reason why I'm just not founding this crawl space is because of this drywall. The owner, she had this drywall covering the crawl space. That's not the cool thing about it. And I want y'all to check this out. So, while I was here, I found this table, and I also found this extra space right here. You have a vent right there. I think I just heard some footsteps. This can't be a squatter.
What started out as a quick clip intended for his Facebook group quickly spirals into something out of a nightmare. For starters, the sound of footsteps can clearly be heard crossing the floorboards above, despite the fact that nobody else is supposed to be there. Even more unsettling, voices and what sounds like giggling echo from somewhere deep within the space. And then, as if things couldn't get any more disturbing, the crawlspace door slowly swings open on its own. It's really no surprise that Elijah tore out of there as fast as his legs would carry him. He clearly wasn't the only one in that house, and if his account is accurate, that the following workday showed no evidence of any intruder, then the real question remains, just what on earth did Elijah come face to face with inside those walls? A YouTube explorer who goes by Jeff from the channel Ask Jeff Williams heads out to investigate a long-abandoned mining park located in the town of Tonopah. Jeff is a seasoned geologist with more than 4 decades of hands-on experience. His videos take viewers through eerie and unsettling desert landscapes, forgotten mines, caves, and the kinds of places where gold and precious metals were once pulled from the earth. On this particular outing, he makes his way toward an enormous minehead frame that has been standing for well over a century. Back in its day, silver ore was hauled up from deep underground through this very structure. Jeff notes that many of the mines in this region plunge to depths exceeding 2,500 feet. He carefully looks over the edge and lowers his camera down into the pitch black shaft below. Initially, the footage reveals nothing more than darkness and the old wooden guides that once kept the mine elevator on track. But as the camera drops further, the sheer depth of this shaft becomes impossible to ignore. Hundreds of feet straight down. Then, something completely unexpected comes into frame. At roughly 500 feet below the surface, scattered among debris and crumbling structural supports, human remains become visible. A full skeleton is resting against one of the supports. It seems as though someone may have tumbled into the shaft at some point in the distant past and never came back up. Afterward, Jeff reached out to fellow explorers in hopes of recovering the remains, but despite multiple attempts, nobody was able to bring the skeleton up to the surface. A relaxing, musky fishing excursion takes a nerve-wracking turn for one fearless angler. He's barely gotten his line in the water when the tranquility is shattered by the appearance of a huge snake closing in fast. Panic takes over as the creature makes a beeline for the boat, and he scrambles to fend it off using his fishing rod. In a moment of pure dread, the snake actually makes it partway into the boat. Somehow, the fisherman keeps his head and manages to avoid the worst of it, and just when things look dire, the snake launches itself back into the river, leaving him shaken but completely unscathed. Meanwhile, out on the open ocean, a couple heads out for what they expect to be a quiet day of fishing, with no idea what's lurking below the surface. They settle into the easy pace of life at sea, lines in the water, when without warning something enormous grabs hold on the other end. The man wrestles with the rod, every muscle straining as he tries to bring up whatever beast has taken the bait.
Incredible, guys.
Refusing to give up, they fight on together, and eventually a colossal fish breaks the surface. What they're looking at stops them cold. It's a giant Napoleon fish, a breathtaking and endangered species that neither of them will ever forget. This next clip comes from a creator named Wozek Ahmadi, who received a tip from one of his followers about a crumbling, deteriorating property covered in unsettling markings. He'd made previous attempts to document the place, but each one went the same way. Neighbors or passersby would phone the authorities, cutting the whole thing short before he ever made it inside. This time around, he shows up with a companion and a clear mission: figure out why this derelict building seems to have so many people looking out for it. They scale the stone wall and make their way around the perimeter. Toward the rear of the structure, they find a window with no glass, just an open frame. On the far wall of that room, painted in vivid red, is a large numeral 6. Directly above, on the second floor, there's another window, and while they're still taking in the scene below, something suddenly falls from that upper opening, loud enough to snap their focus straight upward, back to the wall. The red 6 is still there, but now they notice something they missed before. The door inside that same room has been nailed shut. 6 nails, exactly. At that point, the recurring number stops feeling like a coincidence. Just beside the open window frame, there's a small 3-rung ladder, and on it, they spot what appears to be blood. Vivid, bright red. Whether it's fresh, planted, or something else altogether, they can't say, but it's enough to send their nerves into overdrive. The ledge at the base of the window appears to have the same red material smeared across it. Wozek climbs partway up the ladder to steal a glance inside, and that's the moment everything unravels.
Is that blood?
Show me on it.
Is that blood? Oh, fuck.
Inside, he can make out what looks unmistakably like a human body draped beneath a white sheet, the fabric soaked through with that same red stain. Every instinct kicks in at once. He runs. Tearing across the yard, he glances left and catches sight of what he believes is another figure suspended from a tree. He and his friend clear the property at full speed with no intention of going back. Once they're far enough away, they dial the police and walk officers through everything they witnessed. Authorities show up and the footage cuts out there. No resolution, no answers, just a locked house keeping its secrets. The next clip comes from a home security camera that picked up motion in the living room on July 10th, 2025. What makes it unsettling is that the house was completely empty at the time. The owner was out. His dog was in the room though, which is exactly why he brushed off the motion alerts at first, assuming it was nothing more than his pet wandering around. That assumption held up until he got back home and noticed his dog wasn't acting like itself. In fact, the behavior has continued ever since. That's when he decided to pull up the footage, and what he found on that recording genuinely disturbed him. Pay close attention to every detail here. The owner is convinced something supernatural was interacting with his dog. The dog appears to be recovering, though it's clearly still unsettled by the whole ordeal. Throughout the footage, the animal is locked onto something, staring, reacting, as though another presence was in the room, even though nothing is visible to us. The owner firmly believes something paranormal entered his home and was responsible for removing the dog's collar. Now, you might wonder whether the dog simply shook it off by itself, but according to the owner, that's just not something that happens. The collar fits snugly, has never slipped off on its own, and can only be removed by physically taking it off. So what exactly did this camera pick up that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What follows is a series of clips all centered around one woman, Amanda, who had just settled into a new home when unsettling things started occurring almost right away. She'd been living there roughly 2 weeks, spending that time posting videos of herself tidying up and walking through different parts of the house, when she suddenly shared a clip that felt different from the rest, one zeroing in on a particular room that had been giving her a bad feeling.
I just moved into this house like 2 weeks ago, but I am extremely afraid of this room back here. I've only been in it 4 times. The first time was to come and look at the house, and I looked at it, and then the second time was to get a bed frame that was up here. The third time when my sister was here, and the fourth time to put these boxes up here. And that's where I went, to the top of the stairs, literally the top of the stairs. because I was too scared. But this is now my 5th time up here. Tell me why. Okay, I think it's the neighbors, I'm not sure. But why is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 over there? And there's 3 behind. Why is there 21 mattresses up in this room? This hole on the other side of it, it leads to a big open space that I'm fucking petrified of. I only looked in there once. What is that noise? I think it's my neighbors. Okay, I think they're underneath this room, which is not a part of my house. I think it's the garage, which the downstairs people get. But this door, or this thing, I put this up last time I was up here. Wait, let me turn my flashlight on. Okay, flashlight is on? No. On. Flashlight can't be on. Okay. Right, there's a whole another couple of rooms back there, but I'm too scared. Just put that back up there. I think it's the whole rest of, oh shit.
Nothing alarming jumped out immediately. She walked viewers through the space and drew attention to a crawl space that she found deeply troubling. Once the video was up though, the comment section took a dark turn. Several viewers said they actually knew the house. According to them, a previous male occupant had been convinced something in the home was tormenting him. So badly, in fact, that it reportedly drove him to alcohol before he finally packed up and left. Amanda, however, didn't have the luxury of walking away. A couple of days passed, and then she was back with another update.
My mom up from Toronto yesterday, and I wanted to show her the house. So of course, I showed her the spooky room. And I must have left the light on up there. I don't remember leaving the light on. But I stood at the bottom of the stairs and I made my mom go up the stairs. And I was like, Mom, look into that wooden spot over there. And she's like, what wooden spot? That's because it's down there. Yeah, no. There's cushions back there. No. I told my ex about it and he said that it was probably the draft that did it. I don't know, I'm gonna put it back up. So maybe it did slip. Maybe I'm just being a little bit crazy. The draft in there is insane. Okay. I gotta get this to stay up here. Okay, I think that's good. I think that's secure. If I come up here again and that's on the ground, I'm gonna lose my shit. is actually a nice wardrobe. I mean, I wonder if I can carry that downstairs. That is nice. I hope that's my foot tracks. Can't even see out the window today. Oh, that's a nice picture. That'd go nice in my kitchen. Oh! Okay. So it must have been the draft. I'll have to get somebody to come and nail that on or something. Or I'm gonna do that actually. I'm gonna go get some nails right now. Cause fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that shit.
The board covering the crawl space kept falling down.
Her take was that it was simply a draft, and that putting a latch on would fix everything. Not everyone bought that explanation though. Several commenters claimed they could make out an eerie voice somewhere in the background of the footage. Then, just a few days on, she posted again. Had it swung open?
You didn't look?
Amanda reported that the door leading up to that room had developed a habit of opening by itself, but only whenever nobody was around to see it happen. Commenters pushed her to set up a camera and let it run, so that's exactly what she did, and the footage it captured only deepened the mystery. At one point, Amanda stepped out and left the house completely vacant. Coming back to what was waiting for her inside genuinely shook her.
Fuck out. I just got home and tell me why my chairs are like this. Like, what the fuck? I literally still have my coat on. I come walking through the fucking... Oh my god. I'm like shaking right now. I just went and dropped my daughter off to her dad's house. And all the chairs were around the table. What the fuck? Oh my god.
Ever since that moment, she's gone completely quiet. No follow-up posts, nothing. A large portion of her audience is now firmly convinced the place is haunted, and some viewers keep insisting they recognize the house, claiming it has a history of chasing residents out. So where do you land on this one? Is something genuinely paranormal going on inside those walls, or is there a perfectly rational answer hiding somewhere in all of this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Siapa di luar?
In November 2023, a deeply unsettling video was posted to a channel called Jelly Official. The creator behind it is well known for venturing out alone to creepy and desolate locations, frequently documenting strange and unexplainable phenomena along the way. But this particular upload stands apart. Even by his own standards, it ranks among the most frightening things he's ever captured. The footage starts with Jelly describing a 2-day journey through mountainous terrain to reach a remote, forsaken cabin with a genuinely disturbing past. Long ago, an elderly couple who called this place home were brutally attacked during a robbery. Their bodies weren't discovered until days after the fact. The cabin has sat empty ever since, though people in the surrounding area insist that the spirits of the couple, along with other dark presences, still linger there. Fully aware of these warnings, Jelly pressed on anyway, intent on spending the night and recording everything for his viewers. The moment he stepped through the door, the atmosphere felt oppressive. Thick cobwebs draped down from above, and every surface was blanketed in dust that had clearly been undisturbed for years. It was obvious nobody had set foot here in a very long time. Yet, as the hours crept by, it became increasingly clear that Jelly wasn't the only one present.
Kita tutup dulu teman-teman supaya cepet matang. Ada yang sama itu ya. Ada orang ya? Depan ya? Gelap semua teman-teman. Siapa ya? Ada orang nggak ya? Nggak ada siapa-siapa ya. Tutup lagi lah. Dengar nggak teman-teman? Nggak dengar kali teman-teman. Enak banget teman-teman. Ada tamu ya? Ya, siapa ya? Mungkin salah dengar teman-teman ya. Lanjut makan lagi teman-teman. Siapa sih? Kita lihat dulu. Siapa itu? Lagi enak-enak makan ada aja yang gangguin. Tutup lagi teman-teman. Kalian dengar? Astagfirullahaladzim. Subhanallah. Apa itu? Dari mana suaranya teman-teman ya? Siapa ya? Kalian dengar sendiri kan teman-teman?
While he was getting himself settled, a soft voice drifted in from somewhere out in the misty dark. It was unmistakably feminine. Jelly stopped dead, his pulse spiking. He carefully pushed the door open to look outside. Nothing. Later, while sitting down for a meal, a quiet knocking started up somewhere along the cabin walls. He tried to write it off as the wind, maybe an animal, but the knocking kept building, growing harder and more rhythmic, as though something on the other side was demanding to be let in. Then, while Jelly was in the middle of recounting the cabin's tragic backstory, something stopped him cold.
Bela-belain 2 harian ya teman-teman. Kenapa gitu ya? Karena ada sebuah tragedi yang mengerikan banget. Dulu itu pernah hidup seorang kakek dan nenek yang memang nggak ada keturunan. Dia dari awal nikah sampai umur 70, istrinya umur 65. Malam Sabtu terjadilah pembunuhan yang mengakibatkan kakek dan satu nenek ini meninggal dunia. Yang mengerikannya teman-teman, ditemukan mayitnya ini udah 3 hari tergeletak tak bernyawa, tapi dia tuh masih bergandengan tangan teman-teman. Gubuk ini sekarang ditempatin sama suami istri, diisi baru sekitar 1,5 bulan yang lalu. Tiap malam terdengar suara tangisan, suara ketawa-ketawa, serta suara geraman gitu. Jendela itu kayak diketok-ketok gitu loh teman-teman. Terbukti teman-teman, aku udah beberapa kali langsung merinding aku. 2 kali teman-teman aku ngalamin kejadian itu. Tadi tok 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 tok, tak siapa ya di luar, nggak ada yang jawab. Kayak gitu lagi teman-teman. Sekarang baru jam 9 lebih 10 menit ya. Kalian dengar apa? Siapa di luar? Astagfirullahaladzim. Halo?
A dark shape appeared to be peering in through the window. Jelly, deep in his story, had no idea it was there, but the camera caught every detail. Once he wrapped up his account, a deep, rumbling growl rolled in from outside. He swept the area with his flashlight but couldn't locate where it was coming from. Worn out and rattled, Jelly eventually lay down to try and rest. And that's precisely when things began spiraling in the worst possible direction.
Nah, enak. Ada yang ketok-ketok kan? Siapa? Halo? Apa hewan ya teman-teman, nyakar-nyakarin apa? Salah kali, salah dengar teman-teman. Suara apa sih itu? Suara apa ya teman-teman ya itu ya? Halo? Siapa di luar? Seperti suara di belakang teman-teman.
Mak.
Ya? Astagfirullahaladzim teman-teman, denger nggak? Ada orang nggak? Kayak ada suara cewek di luar teman-teman. Kayak ada cewek minta tolong. Gimana kamu? Kayak ada tolong mas gitu kan. Begitu kita buka, dia ketawa, teman-teman, kuntilanak.
The disturbances only intensified from there. The knocking returned harder than before and far too deliberate to ignore. Shortly after, Jelly picked up the distinct sound of footsteps making slow circles around the outside of the cabin. He went completely still, listening hard. Then a voice cut through the quiet, frail, aged, and female. It was barely audible, yet loaded with an unsettling, mournful quality. A moment later, that same voice shifted into something between a song and a laugh. The sound was deeply eerie, reverberating through the walls and pushing Jelly toward full-blown panic. Then came the moment that shook him most. The door slowly swung open by itself.
Oke teman-teman, deg-degan banget seriusan aku teman-teman. Begitu tadi ada yang tolong mas, aku kira dirampok atau apa gitu. Nggak tahunya begitu kita respon beneran malah kuntilanak, sialan.
Assalamualaikum.
Aduh. Astagfirullahaladzim. Allahu Akbar. Astagfirullahaladzim. Buka sendiri teman-teman, sialan kuntilanak. Ntar dulu guys. Kuntilanak. Ayo, siapa itu? Wih. Kolong kah? Coba kita lihat kolong teman-teman. Ih, dalam teman-teman ternyata di sini. Tutup dulu guys. Halo. Astagfirullahaladzim. Ayo. Nggak ada sih. Astagfirullahaladzim. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Siapa itu? Coba teman-teman ya kita lihat dari sini jendela. Jendelanya aja sawangan teman-teman, lihat tuh. Hei. Nggak ada siapa-siapa kan? Suaranya seperti dari belakang teman-teman. Yo, siapa itu? Suaranya jelas banget kayak ada suara ketawa-ketawa gitu teman di sebelah sini. Gila, bener-bener diteror malam ini kita teman-teman, seriusan di sini. Udah jam 1:30 teman-teman. Duh, ngantuk banget lagi. Oke teman-teman, aku lanjut tidur aja lah. Dari belakang guys. Kalian denger kan teman-teman, seperti ada sesuatu kayak dia tuh lagi ngulek-ngulek ini. Jelas banget kan teman-teman, kayak lagi nyambel. Oke, kita biarin aja.
Jelly caught a faint noise seemingly originating from just beyond the entrance. Before he had any chance to act, the door drifted open on its own. Standing out in the fog was the dim outline of a kuntilanak, a spectral female figure from local folklore. Jelly, not yet aware of her presence, walked outside to investigate, only for the kuntilanak's laughter to suddenly ring out from inside the cabin behind him. He whipped around, but the interior was completely empty. As he attempted to steady his nerves and get back to bed, yet another sound surfaced, this time from the rear of the cabin, like something being ground or scraped. He worked up the nerve to go check, but found absolutely nothing. His breathing grew shallow as he struggled to find a rational explanation. An animal maybe? Or something that defied explanation entirely? By the time morning light finally arrived, Jelly looked completely hollowed out, mentally and physically. He described a vivid dream from during the night in which a young child had approached him, desperately asking for help. Was that truly just a dream? Or was it one more attempt by whatever dwells there to reach out? So, what actually went on that night? Were the spirits of that murdered couple genuinely making their presence known, or did the cabin's sinister reputation simply get inside Jelly's head? Skeptics have noted how conveniently timed many of the sounds and voices seem to be, but others insist that the rawness of his fear, the way his body reacted in real time makes it nearly impossible to write the whole thing off as staged. Where do you land on this one? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What was once a small Pennsylvania town became the setting for one of the most devastating battles in all of American history. Over 50,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or reported missing across just 3 days of fighting in 1863. Among the most brutal and chaotic corners of that battlefield was Devil's Den, a rugged stretch of massive rocks where Union infantry clashed at terrifyingly close range, leaving behind not only the dead, but something that seemingly never left. To this day, visitors report hearing the crack of gunfire, disembodied voices, and the whistle of phantom shells. During peak seasons, some people even claim to witness the figures of soldiers materializing and vanishing among the boulders. A few years back, a woman named Steph came forward to share her deeply unsettling encounter at Devil's Den. A friend had actually cautioned her against making the hike out there, and as it turned out, that warning may have been well-founded. While nearby visitors snapped a photo of the group, everything seemed normal in the moment, but when they later reviewed the live photo, something in the frame stopped them cold. Lurking in the background, wedged between two enormous boulders, is a dark, shadowy figure. It almost appears as though it held its position just long enough to be captured by the camera. Those present at the time confirmed that nobody had been standing in that spot when the shot was taken. So what exactly did that camera pick up? And could this be genuine evidence of one of the phantom soldiers that witnesses have long reported roaming Devil's Den? Our next clip comes from two friends who had planned what was supposed to be a cozy night in, watching movies together. They'd queued up a horror film, fully expecting the only frights to come from the TV. Instead, the evening took a turn they never could have anticipated.
Oigan amigos, estábamos aquí viendo una película de terror y se están empezando a escuchar ruidos en la casa. Te juro que neta, en serio. Ponle pausa, ponle pausa, ponle pausa, ponle pausa. Pausa. Alexa, mute. Alexa, mute. Pausa. Ay, ¿no se pausa? What the fuck? Madres. Se los juro, es... ¿Qué pedo? Bien. ¿Sí lo grabaste? Sí, creo que sí quedó grabado. Es que estábamos aquí en la casa, estábamos viendo una película ya para... literal, ya para dormir. No mames.
Mid-movie, an unexpected noise put them on edge. Then a faint clinking rang out, followed by a door slamming hard. It seemed like it might be over, but the disturbances were only just getting started.
No, eso fue mi cuarto. Ya se había calmado. Oigan, ya no habíamos escuchado nada. Y... no. Oigan, y es que estamos completamente solas, o sea, vivimos aquí. Se están escuchando cosas allá en la parte del baño. Se sigue moviendo. ¿Qué pedo? Leslie, no. No, Leslie, estamos solas, no mames. Perdón.
A thunderous bang made both girls jump, and that was followed by the deeply unsettling sound of something dragging or crawling, then more aggressive pounding. And somehow, it kept getting worse.
Están escuchando cosas. No. Leslie, ¿qué hacemos? Hay que hablarle a César, ¿no? ¿Tiene su número? Márcale. Ay, acompáñame a mi cuarto. Es que se sigue moviendo esa cosa. No, vente, no, vente. Vean. Hay que hablarle a César.
Shaken and barely holding it together, the two whispered back and forth about whether to reach out for help, all while the noises pressed on and something appeared to move through the home completely on its own. There's a theory that horror films can draw in dark or negative energy. Make of that what you will, but whatever was happening in that house that night was absolutely terrifying, and you only need to see their faces to understand that. Once the footage made its way online, people had all kinds of theories about the source of the disturbances. So what's your take? What do you think was really going on during their movie night?
No, Benji, no, vente.
In Scotland is a place called Cloon Park Estate, a location that sends a chill down the spine of anyone who knows its reputation. What was once a lively, bustling community back in the early 1920s gradually fell into abandonment as the decades passed. These days, the structures that remain, among them a school and a Gothic-style church, sit hollow and crumbling. The atmosphere is unsettling enough that plenty of people are convinced something supernatural lingers there. Drawn in by those whispers, two friends made the decision to venture out and explore the grounds after dark. For a while, things felt calm and unremarkable as they made their way through the decaying buildings. At some point, they stepped inside an old flat to have a look around. That's when, without warning, a strange sound rose up from somewhere below them. It was distinct enough to stop both of them dead in their tracks.
Hello? Isn't it? Hello? Yo! It. Hello? Yo, go upstairs, dude. Hello? Hey, what is that? Is that downstairs? Hello? There's someone down there, bro. How can they? I'm confused. Huh? Say that. In that room. Hello? Hello? What are we hearing? Hello?
Suspecting someone else might be lurking in the building, they cautiously moved toward wherever the noise seemed to be coming from. But when they reached the room in question, it was completely empty. What made it even more unnerving was something they had noticed earlier during their walkthrough. There had been movement behind a curtain in one of the windows.
Future in hand. Right, that one's open. Yo. Do you see movement then? Move the light. Yo. Yo. What's that? Yo.
For just a fleeting second, a ghostly pale face seemed to be peering out at them before vanishing without a trace. Rattled to their core, the two wasted no time getting out of there, with no real explanation for what they had just encountered. Liam is an English TikTok creator and committed paranormal investigator who has amassed a loyal audience by taking his ghost hunting expeditions live on the platform. He's made a name for himself by wandering alone through pitch dark, remote graveyards in the dead of night, chasing down whatever can't be easily explained. Because this clip was pulled straight from one of his live broadcasts, there's an added layer of dread knowing it unfolded in real time. with zero opportunity for any kind of editing or post-production manipulation. Judge for yourself what he captured.
In this empty house. At first sight, there's nothing there. A mysterious figure appears.
Breaking this footage down, the sheer remoteness of that darkened cemetery makes what's revealed all the more unsettling. As Liam moves his camera across the grounds, it briefly lands on the broken out windows of a derelict church sitting on the same property. Looking through the glass at that moment, the inside appears completely bare. But then he swings the camera away, and when he slowly brings it back to that very same window, just seconds later, something has changed. Pressed against the glass and completely motionless is a dense, dark silhouette, a figure standing upright and staring straight in his direction. It makes no attempt to move, shift, or conceal itself. When the low-light livestream footage is digitally enhanced and zoomed in, the darkness begins to peel apart just enough to reveal the faint but deeply disturbing outline of a face looking right back at him. In Snowmass Village, Colorado, a man was out late at night enjoying a cigar when a strange growling sound caught his attention, and then he spotted something in the shadows with glowing eyes staring back at him. He watched the creature lower itself into a crouch, and even hunched over, he estimated it stood around 8 feet tall. Once he stopped recording, the dogs headed outside and completely lost their minds reacting to whatever this thing was. These were animals that had come face to face with bears before and barely flinched. Yet this 8-foot figure lurking in the Colorado mountains was enough to send them into a frenzy. This unsettling clip was originally posted to Instagram by Ghost Golden Guns in 2023, but it's only recently exploded across social media platforms. According to the person who uploaded it, within just a few days of settling into a new place, bizarre occurrences began taking over the house. Initially, it was subtle, strange sounds, an overwhelming sense of dread, but the activity quickly escalated to a point where it simply couldn't be brushed off. Rattled and desperate for answers, he began documenting everything with his phone.
Yo, what up? Ghost Golden Guns over here, and I'm going live right now because that's why. Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? What the f***? What the fuck? Who is out? Oh my god. Oh my goodness, what the fuck? Hello? Who is there? Oh my goodness, please stop. What the f? Please stop. Please stop. This is my house. Leave. Leave. This is my house. You're not allowed here. Leave. Oh my goodness. Hello. Oh my goodness.
You can clearly see objects shifting on their own, but what follows is somehow even more disturbing. Then, on a separate night, as those familiar strange sounds crept through the house once more, he grabbed his phone and went looking for the source. And that's when he caught this on camera. A figure can be spotted silently peering around the bedroom door frame, completely motionless, just staring at him, before it gradually retreats back into the shadows. Already shaken to his core, he attempts to keep things normal, but then yet another night brings something that takes the terror to a whole new level. Some kind of apparition-like entity materializes at his bedroom door. He moves toward it, and just like that, it disappears without a trace, never showing itself again. Completely horrified by what he's experienced, the man decides he's done and spends the night at a friend's place instead. But what exactly did he encounter inside that house, and what is this thing? Is there a paranormal explanation? That's for you to decide. Countless eerie videos recorded by security cameras make their rounds on the internet, but this particular clip stands out. Many people are convinced it's completely authentic, unscripted, and untampered with. In 2025, a bedroom security camera belonging to a little girl named Hannah caught something that will send chills down your spine. Hannah's father explained that she had begun waking up repeatedly throughout the night, sobbing for no reason anyone could explain. Then one evening, the camera picked up something that nobody was prepared for. An invisible force suddenly seized the girl's leg and yanked it with such violence that the entire bed shook. And remarkably, even the camera itself rattled, despite being mounted nowhere near the bed. Hannah jolted awake, screaming and overcome with fear. It's pretty clear that Hannah wasn't responsible for the movement herself. Her foot didn't come anywhere close to the edge of the bed, and it seems virtually impossible for a young child to generate enough force to shake both a bed and a distant camera like that. For that reason, most people who've seen this footage believe what occurred here goes beyond any natural explanation and crosses firmly into paranormal territory. What's your take on this? A fast food worker began uploading a series of TikTok videos that have been genuinely disturbing viewers ever since. He claims that for several months, the restaurant has been the site of increasingly strange activity. Lights cutting in and out, the sound of footsteps with no source, and objects dropping for no apparent reason. But one particular night took things to a whole new level. He was wrapping up his shift and getting ready to head out when the lights began flickering. Not subtly, but with a wild, almost frantic intensity. Already on edge, he and a coworker suddenly realized she had forgotten her keys somewhere in the back of the building. Rather than go alone, the two of them headed back together, completely unprepared for what was waiting.
Okay guys, we were literally just about to leave my store when just started flickering again. This is the second time it's happened. My car's over there, and
I'm shaking right now.
Okay, and her keys are in the fucking back.
We need to go. We need to go get my keys.
And the light turned on.
I don't want to go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna literally record this whole thing just so you guys can see what happened. I'm literally so fucking scared. Okay, okay, something. The bathroom light's on too.
What's this like? Bro, why are my keys on the floor? They were not there. Like, I deadass put them on the desk. Like.
Without warning, a piece of plastic dropped straight to the ground with nobody anywhere near it, sending both of them into an immediate panic. Moments later, the coworker steps into the room and spots her keys lying on the floor, and she's visibly rattled. She's adamant that she left them sitting on the table, well away from the edge, making it physically impossible for them to have just slipped off. The mood in that store shifts instantly. The two of them pull up the security footage, desperately trying to piece together an explanation, but nothing they see gives them any answers. Despite that, they press on through the rest of the building, and that's when the situation takes a sharp turn for the worse.
Terrifying.
We're 50 minutes past our because of this.
We closed at 10, so we need to like, it's so dark because all the light switches are over here.
Stop it, go,
Okay.
go.
Okay, this is what I mean. This room is over.
God.
This is
Oh my god.
this is what we're dealing with.
Oh my god, yo, what the fuck? Bro, Nick, did you do this on purpose?
I-
Did you yes. No, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, Nick.
Stop! You're literally. Are you?
No, wait, no. Nah.
No.
That didn't just
We literally looked away for like 2 seconds.
Out of thin air, an object comes flying directly across his face as though hurled by something unseen. Within seconds, more items begin shifting and tumbling while the overhead lights start swinging back and forth on their own. The whole place seems to pulse with the energy of something invisible. Things flying, objects moving, all of it unfolding at the same time. A lot of people watching have pointed to classic poltergeist behavior as the only explanation. Of course, the possibility that the whole thing was carefully staged can't be ruled out either. Even so, standing alone in a dark, empty restaurant at that hour while all of this unfolds around you, that's the kind of thing that gets under your skin. So, where do you land on this one? Genuine paranormal encounter or an incredibly convincing act? This next story was pulled from the Paranormal Encounter subreddit, and what makes it especially creepy is the amount of background detail the uploader provides. He explains that he used to be employed at a party store with a long-standing reputation for ghostly happenings. Over the years, he'd had a few strange personal experiences there, but nothing he could ever back up with evidence, until one particular morning shift changed everything. That day, he and a coworker arrived early to take care of some pre-orders. As he was getting settled in at his workstation, he spotted a blue balloon sitting beneath his desk. It struck him as odd, but he didn't think too hard about it. Figuring the closing manager had probably left it there, he grabbed it, tossed it out into the hallway, and returned to what he was doing. Roughly 15 minutes later, his coworker came over and casually mentioned that she'd just popped a balloon. He shrugged it off at first. Balloons pop, it happens, no big deal. Then she told him why it popped, because it had been trailing her around the break room. He immediately asked whether the balloon happened to be blue. It was. Now thoroughly rattled, he pulled up the security footage from earlier that morning. What he found left him stunned. The recording shows the blue balloon traveling on its own from the front of the store all the way into his office in just a matter of minutes, navigating several sharp turns along the way before ending up right under his desk. After he threw it into the hallway, the footage then appears to show it drifting toward his coworker moments before it burst. For some, this points to a mischievous spirit interacting with the physical world through an object nobody would think twice about. Skeptics, on the other hand, argue that air currents or ventilation systems could theoretically guide a lightweight balloon through a building in ways that look deliberate but aren't. Even so, the specific route it takes and the timing involved make a simple mechanical explanation feel like a stretch. Whatever is really going on here, this footage has a way of making you look at balloons very differently, and not in a fun, birthday party kind of way. Surveillance footage from a guard booth camera captured something that left every single person who saw it completely unsettled. A vehicle slowly rolls up to the booth, and the guard extends his hand to take the parking ticket. The driver, however, doesn't respond at all. Realizing something isn't right, the guard pushes open his booth door to investigate. What he finds stops him cold. There's nobody behind the wheel. This incident reportedly took place in 2013. A period when self-driving technology was still confined to early experimental trials by Google. Well before autonomous vehicles entered the public consciousness through brands like Tesla, a car navigating itself down a road would have been virtually unthinkable. The guard barely has a moment to make sense of what he's looking at before a mysterious figure suddenly emerges from the back of the vehicle. Overcome with fear, he spins around and bolts. Nobody has been able to explain what that presence was. The video cuts out as the surrounding area goes completely quiet, like nothing unusual had taken place at all. But one thing continues to gnaw at people who've seen this clip. The car remains right where it stopped, engine still idling, as if whoever or whatever brought it there hasn't quite finished. The following clips were all recorded inside a French household where a woman has been living alone with her young son and their pets, and where unexplained activity has apparently been building for weeks. The phenomena don't stay in one room, they don't happen at predictable times, and according to the woman, the phenomena seem to be starting again after what she describes as a stretch of quiet. One night, the woman heard a strange sound coming from the boy's empty bedroom while the child was in the living room watching cartoons on a tablet. Even the family cat seemed to hear it. The tabby walked directly toward the dark room, calm but focused, heading somewhere with intent. Watch. Inside the unlit bedroom, a rhythmic banging could be heard coming from somewhere in the darkness, while a teddy bear appeared to move in a way that many viewers later described as unnatural. The camera lingers on the room as the sound continues, making it difficult to tell whether the movement was caused by something ordinary or something else entirely. What unsettled many people most wasn't the toy itself, but the behavior of the cat. Animals are often believed to sense things humans cannot perceive, reacting to sounds, movement, or changes in an environment long before people notice them. And in this footage, the tabby doesn't appear frightened or confused. It walks toward the room without hesitation, as if it already understands something the people behind the camera do not. Some viewers believe the footage captured a genuine paranormal moment. Others argue there may be a logical explanation hidden somewhere in the darkness of the room. But whatever caused the banging that night, one thing is certain. The reaction from the cat is what continues to leave people unsettled. Another incident happened while she was getting ready to shower late at night, and her son was already asleep in his room. She heard something in the hallway, a mechanical rolling and a rhythmic banging against the bathroom door, and when she opened it, she found this. She documented everything methodically. She found the remote control sitting on the stairs, its batteries dead for days. Her son had left it there for her to replace, meaning no one had been operating that truck, and no one in that house was awake to do it anyway. She lives alone with her child and her animals, and she plans to have the house purified, and that in itself tells you how seriously she's taking this. On another night, she woke up again, this time by her child's electronic toy drum set that had switched itself on in her son's bedroom, flashing and playing music while the child slept right through it. Take a look.
À bientôt pour un nouveau concert. À bientôt pour un nouveau concert.
As she moves through the room to shut the toy off, something small and bright moves quickly across the frame near a stack of cardboard boxes. A white orb-shaped light that travels fast and low before disappearing. Skeptics would call it dust or a lens artifact, and that's a reasonable position. Fast-moving specks caught on phone cameras at night are common enough to dismiss. But the toy turning on is the harder thing to rationalize because she says it's not the first time, and her reaction when she opens the door, "Ça recommence?" suggests a woman who's past the point of being surprised and now just exhausted by it. Some people familiar with cases like this point to what's called a poltergeist pattern, a term that comes from the German for noisy ghost, and historically describes phenomena that center around children or households under stress, characterized by objects moving, electronics activating, and escalating disturbances with no clear origin. Whether that framework fits here or not, the toys in this home do seem to have a habit of coming to life on their own. Then, the activity crossed a line. In a later clip, the woman was watching a video on a projector in the dark when she began hearing a series of sharp, unexplained taps coming from somewhere in the room she couldn't identify. Watch closely. A drawer on a small wooden table slid open on its own in front of her, smooth and silent. And then, the moment she turned her back after closing it, the door behind her slammed shut with real force. She gasped, opened the door, turned on the hallway light, and walked toward her son's room to check on him. That's when it escalated completely. A sudden, thunderous barrage of heavy sounds rushed at her from down the hallway, like something charging directly toward her, and the camera fell. The footage ends with the phone on the floor pointing at the ceiling, and the only sound is her breathing, fast, shaking, and ragged. She said that days can go by in this house without anything happening, and then everything hits at once, and that she's not afraid so much as she is worn down by it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because there's a version of the story where the explanation is mundane. Faulty toy batteries, a drafty hallway, an old door latch, and a version where a single mother has been quietly sharing her home with something that's been getting louder. Now, in this next clip, a man decides to explore American cremation after hours, a facility his friend works at, someone who had already warned him that strange things tend to happen around the furnaces when they're in use. He'd gone in knowing the lights shut off automatically at a certain hour, and he walks through the dark space with only his phone's flashlight cutting through the dark, past the heavy metal retorts, past the urns sitting on tables, talking himself through it calmly enough. But then, the audio starts acting up. A wave of static and distortion bleeding into his narration, even though he claims he didn't hear any of it while he was standing there. That alone would be enough to make most people turn around. He keeps going. Watch.
I have a friend that works that he would see and hear things coming from these furnaces when they're burning the bodies. So when I'm walking through here, they usually put the urns out to send to the families. So when I'm walking here at night, I walk right by these urns that they put on these tables here. And then I come down, freaking out. Fuck. Crazy.
As he holds the camera on a shelf lined with urns, the lid on a white marble patterned one lifts, twice. accompanied by a sharp metallic screeching sound that fills the room. His reaction is immediate and visceral. He swears, the camera swings toward the ceiling, and he runs. He doesn't stop until he's back in the office hallway, breathing hard, trying to gather himself. But it doesn't stop there. While he's hiding in the office, a faint, low breathy moan is caught on the recording, something he wouldn't have even known was there until he reviewed the footage later. And then, outside, standing in the parking lot with a cemetery sitting just beyond the fence line, a high-pitched female voice is captured, soft and quick, cutting through the night air. Some believe locations like this, places where the recently deceased pass through daily, carry a kind of residual energy that doesn't always leave with the body. Others think the EVPs point to something more active, something still present on the grounds. If you listen closely to that second voice especially, it's hard to explain away as ambient noise. So what exactly was in that room with him? The following clips were recorded by people living in the same quiet suburban neighborhood, a place that, on the surface, looks completely ordinary, but where residents have been noticing things that are difficult to explain away. It starts at night, on the front porch of a 2-story house. A man in a light-colored shirt steps out onto the porch, pauses, and looks around, almost as if he senses something. The porch light carves out a bright circle in the darkness, but the far left side of the porch stays deep in shadow. Pay close attention to that corner before he turns and walks back inside. Watch. Standing completely motionless on the left side of the porch, partially obscured by the railing and a pillar, is a tall, dark, human-shaped silhouette, and it doesn't move, not once. The man walks right past the area where it stands, and it just stays there, still as a statue. Some viewers think this is what's known as a shadow person, a term used broadly online to describe dark humanoid figures with no discernible features that seem to exist just outside the peripheral, present, watching, but never fully materializing. Skeptics argue it could be a cutout, a mannequin, or even a person deliberately standing still. But here's the thing. The caption attached to this footage says both the person filming and the neighbor appeared to notice something at the same time. That kind of shared experience is hard to stage. In broad daylight, his neighbor walks the place where the figure was seen in the daytime, proving it wasn't something as easily explainable as a Halloween decoration.
Okay guys, my neighbors aren't home, but as you can see, there's no Halloween decoration. So, it wasn't that.
She trails off toward the end of the clip, voice dropping just slightly, as if she herself isn't sure what conclusion to reach. Now, for context, this is the same neighborhood. Victorian homes, an old stone church next door, a block that carries the kind of age that tends to attract these kinds of stories. And she goes looking for answers. Listen closely.
Okay guys, here's your update. They are not home. Every light in the house is off. I am gonna walk over here though, just to see if there's any kind of decoration or what we could have been seeing over here. And not much. This is our driveway here, but it's just a church on the other side of here, so, and an empty parking lot, so there's no decorations. There is that fence, but you could see that in the video if I'm remembering correctly. And here's the other side, and that right there is the window I was looking out of. So I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I will talk to them as soon as I see them. I think I promise. I would like to point out though that we do live in an area surrounded by old Victorian homes, and that's an old church. Over here is another Victorian home, and our neighbor's house is actually a restored Victorian home. They basically gutted the whole thing and built it over its old bones. And then our house is a new build. And that's really all I got, friends. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. We'll figure this out together. I don't know. Maybe it's all the haunted houses around me, but I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Well, I hope there's a logical explanation.
She walks the perimeter of the unlit house at dusk, pointing out the window she'd been watching from, checking for decorations, looking for anything that could explain what she'd previously seen, and she finds nothing. No props, no staging, no easy answer. What's striking is her demeanor. She's nervous but composed, laughing slightly in that way people do when they're genuinely unsettled and trying not to show it. She points out that her entire block is made up of old Victorian homes built over their original bones, with a large historic church sitting right next door, exactly the kind of environment where, according to a lot of paranormal researchers, residual energy tends to accumulate. Whether that explains a motionless shadow figure on a porch or something unidentifiable sitting in a yard in the middle of the day is another question entirely. She ends the clip saying she hopes there's a logical explanation. And honestly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that explanation could be. Because between the figure on the porch, the object in the yard, and a neighborhood full of old houses built over older ones, the pattern here is getting harder to dismiss. In the following video, a woman was simply recording what should have been a peaceful moment. A waterfall deep in Brazil, surrounded by nature. Nothing unusual, just a calm scene meant to capture the beauty of the place. But her camera caught something else. Watch closely.
Domingo, curtindo uma cachoeira em Rio de Janeiro. Reparem o visual na mata. Agora o melhor de tudo é essa queda d'água. Muita água. Muita força. Uhul! Caraca! Uma coisa ali. Caraca, apareceu um cara ali no meio da água. Mozinho! Mozinho, você viu o cara no meio da água? Caraca! Ali, mozinho!
For just a brief moment, a dark, shadowy figure appears to rise from within the waterfall itself, before suddenly vanishing back into the rushing falls as if it was never there. Viewers have slowed the footage frame by frame, and the shape is hard to ignore. To this day, no clear explanation has been able to fully account for what was captured. Some believe this could be a jinn, entities said to inhabit wild, untouched places like forests, rivers, and waterfalls, especially in parts of the world where such stories have existed for centuries. Others suggest it may be a duende, a folkloric being often linked to natural environments in South America. There are also those who think it could be something even stranger, a being briefly slipping through from another dimension, visible only for seconds before disappearing. Skeptics argue shadows, water flow, or camera artifacts. But what makes this clip unsettling is how distinct the figure appears and how deliberately it seems to move. So, what do you think this really was? A ghost tied to the land, a jinn drawn to the water, a duende watching from the falls, or something else entirely? Now, this next video was recorded by a man who's slowly running out of explanations. For weeks, his young son has been insisting that there's someone in the house with them. At first, it was easy to dismiss. A child's imagination, shadows on the wall, toys left in the wrong place. The father brushed it off, telling his son that whatever he thought he was seeing was all in his head. But the claims didn't stop. The boy started talking to empty corners of the room. He'd pause mid-play, stare, and wave as if someone had just passed by. Sometimes he'd laugh, other times he'd go completely quiet, listening to something only he could hear. One night, just as they were about to go to sleep, the boy became visibly unsettled. Have a look.
कहाँ बैठा हुआ है कौन बैठा हुआ है यही मैं बाहर चला गया कौन है कौन कैसा दिखता है? इसको बुलाओ, इधर बुलाओ इसको, बुलाओ इसको। अबे कहाँ क्या है यहाँ पे? कुछ भी तो नहीं है, क्यों अर्थ कर रहा है? मैंने अकेले सोना होता है, मत बुलाओ इसको, इससे बात करें। इसको बुलाओ, उसको मुझे बात करनी है तुमसे। है लड़की है लड़का है? ये जिससे बात कर रहे हो, ये लड़की है कि लड़का है?
Watching the footage back, the father still wasn't sure what to make of it. He couldn't see anything obvious, so he shared the video online, hoping that maybe someone else would notice what he couldn't. Because at this point, the situation was starting to bother him, not just because of what his son claimed to see, but because of how consistent those claims had become. Many people say you should never tell a child they're lying when they insist they see something, especially when their fear doesn't fade and their reactions don't change. Some believe children are more sensitive to things adults no longer notice. So what do you see in the video? And more importantly, how should he handle it the next time his son says he's still here? In November 2019, a young man decided to explore an abandoned 22-story building and livestream the experience. At first, everything felt routine. Dark hallways, peeling paint, the usual eerie silence that comes with places long forgotten. But things changed when he reached the 10th floor. As he angled his camera down the stairwell for just a moment, it looked like someone dressed in black was moving up the stairs toward him. Not walking, but climbing at an unnaturally fast pace. Have a look. At first glance, you might think it's just another person, but based on the distance covered in about 7 seconds, that's an extreme speed. Even trained athletes would struggle to move that fast in a confined stairwell. And then there's the sound. As the figure approaches, a low, aggressive growling can be heard in the audio. Later, people claim that his phone was found higher up the stairwell, still recording, even though the man himself was nowhere nearby. Eventually, he was confirmed to be physically safe, but according to those who spoke with him afterward, he was too shaken to give a clear explanation of what happened inside that building. So, what do you think really happened? A terrifying misunderstanding or something far worse? Let me know your thoughts on this one. In this next video, Kyle, someone who's already dealt with one strange incident after another, is still trying to figure out what, if anything, connects all of it. Just when things seemed to calm down and the activity finally stopped, a new puzzle surfaced. Listen closely.
Listen to this and tell me if you hear a kid running around inside my attic. You hear that? Things have been quiet for like weeks now, and then all of a sudden it's just a ruckus in the attic, like constant. Listen. Isn't that wild? It sounds like a kid is running around up there. And I promise I do not have a child in my attic. It's just crazy. Yeah, things have been really quiet lately. I thought maybe it had all stopped. That's why I haven't been posting. But I guess we're back with a vengeance in 2026.
What makes this unsettling is how much it sounds like children running back and forth inside his attic. What makes it worse is the timing. Kyle says he'd finally had several quiet days. No disturbances, no strange sounds, nothing to suggest whatever had been bothering him was still around. He started to believe the activity had passed, that maybe it really was over. And then This happens. Some believe that when things go quiet, it isn't because whatever's there is gone, but because it's waiting. Others speculate that attic spaces often act as focal points, places where sounds manifest more clearly, or where something chooses to stay out of sight. Kyle is hoping this was a one-off incident, but after everything he's already experienced, it's not something he's willing to bet on. Now, in this next clip, Nate is home alone when he notices something peeking out from his basement. At first, it's subtle, easy to dismiss as shadows or his eyes playing tricks on him. But the feeling sticks with him long enough that he decides to grab his camera and record. This is what he captured.
Guys, check it out. Something was peeking. Right out. From the basement. I wanted to see if we can catch it. The end of it. But it was like right by the bed. What the fuck? This has been the third morning in a row. Like clockwork. I might have to look back, but it might be around the same times as well. I don't understand. There's nothing. And then I was hearing steps coming down those stairs, but there's nothing. Guys. I don't know, guys. Maybe we can try. What? What's that?
Forget whatever was peeking out for a moment. What immediately unsettles viewers is the whispering. Some people claim they can make out words, while others say it's just incoherent murmuring. What makes this harder to ignore is that Nate says the peeking hadn't been a one-time thing. He claims it's been happening almost every morning for several days, always from the same spot. But one night, Nate is home watching a game when he notices the peeking again. This time, it didn't just peek. Watch closely.
Alright guys, please tell me you saw. Whatever keeps peeking out from there. Did it. I'm literally just sitting here watching the game. Wife will be home in about a half hour, so I was just waiting with the pup. And I saw. Nothing. Nothing, like always. Never anything. Nothing down there. Just bags of returnables and hoodies. What the fuck? Okay.
Now objects are being thrown. The energy feels different, more aggressive, more urgent. But once again, what disturbs people the most is the whispering. Viewers who compared both clips say it sounds like the same voice from the first video. There's a theory circulating online that whatever is in the house may be the spirit of a woman, something trapped, unable to move on, attempting to communicate the only way it knows how. Some believe the whispers aren't meant to frighten, but to get attention. Others strongly disagree, arguing that throwing objects and hiding in shadows isn't a cry for help, it's a warning. But until Nate provides more updates, there's no way to know which interpretation is right. So for now, this case remains unsolved. In the following video, a man believes he's dealing with a mimic, and according to him, whatever it is seems to be getting bolder every time it appears. He says the hardest part isn't just hearing the voices, it's when it chooses to act. Around 3 a.m., watch what happened. This time, the voice sounds exactly like his mother. After this clip surfaced, one question kept coming up again and again, and you may have noticed the pattern too. Why do mimics almost always ask to be let in? Folklore across multiple cultures shares the same idea. Mimics, whether they're thought to be spirits, entities, or something else entirely, aren't believed to have free access. Instead, they rely on invitation. Asking to be let in isn't about manners, it's about permission. Once acknowledged, responded to, or welcomed, they're believed to gain stronger influence, sometimes attaching themselves to a place, a person, or both. That's why the voices often sound familiar, trusted, and safe. Because the goal isn't fear, it's consent. As for how people claim to deal with mimics, opinions are split. Some believe the worst thing you can do is respond at all. No talking back, no opening doors, no acknowledging the voice. Others suggest grounding the space by keeping lights on, removing reflective surfaces near doors, or placing physical barriers like salt lines or iron objects, believed in folklore to disrupt whatever is trying to cross over. But many say confrontation is the solution. So the question is, would you open the door or stay silent and hope it goes away? Either way, this is one encounter most people hope they never experience. Now in this next clip, popular Midwest ghost hunter Ian continues his solo investigation at the infamous Squirrel Cage Jail, officially known as the Pottawatomie County Jail in Iowa. This time, his final stop is one of the most unsettling locations in the entire building, Jake Bird's cell. Jake Bird was a convicted serial killer, often referred to as the Bluebeard of Tacoma, and is surrounded by one of the darkest reputations tied to this jail. What makes his story even more disturbing is the so-called Jake Bird curse, a legend claiming that several officials connected to his trial and execution later suffered sudden deaths or misfortune. When Ian steps into Jake Bird's cell, the first thing that immediately stands out is Jake's axe, displayed nearby. According to local history and long-standing accounts, an axe like this was linked to Jake Bird's crimes and is now kept as a reminder of the brutality tied to his name. To see if Jake Bird's presence still lingers, Ian decides to conduct a spirit box session inside the cell. Watch closely.
Are you here with me? Said summon. I heard summon. Who am I speaking with? Jake Bird. Jake Bird. It just said Jake Bird. That was so clear.
Not long after the session, Ian starts feeling unwell. But before he could leave, something else happened. Watch.
I'm starting to feel really lightheaded. Out of it. And I'm feeling really nauseous too.
Oh, holy f! I swear to God, I just see the shadow. It went into the bunk bed where the axe is. Oh God, I really don't want to go back in there. I'm sorry if I offended you, Jake Bird. I didn't mean to. I'm just gonna retrieve my spirit box. Don't mind me. Oh God. I don't want to be in that cell anymore.
At that moment, Ian didn't hesitate. He ends the session and leaves the area entirely. For more haunting videos including Ian, subscribe to the channel now. The following video dates back to 2016, when a lady was 9 years old, spending time at home with her cousin, doing what most kids do, playing around, recording random moments, and not thinking too much about what might be happening in the background. Years later, after strange things in the house began to resurface, unexplained sounds, subtle movements, and that persistent feeling that something wasn't quite right, she decided to go back and review old footage, hoping they might have missed something back then. And that's when she found this. Watch closely.
Dude, what the heck, man? Who are you? Hello? What was that? Did you guys see that? Vines. Come on. Come here. Hello from the other side. Walking really funny. At least I got that on camera. Bye.
First, an unusual light appears. It's brief, easy to miss, but clearly there. And then, something else. A figure. When she reviewed the clip again as an adult, she said the shape looked like a baby figure. Small, low to the ground, and oddly formed. But once the video was shared, people had very different interpretations. Some were convinced it didn't look like a child at all. They believed it looked like a demonic figure. Others made a different comparison entirely, saying it resembled Pennywise. For context, Pennywise is a fictional entity from It by Stephen King, often portrayed as a shape-shifting being that commonly appears as a clown to lure children, but is actually something far more sinister beneath the surface. It's known for taking forms that feel familiar, yet deeply unsettling. And that comparison only made the clip more disturbing for viewers, because if something in that video really did resemble a child, then it becomes harder to explain. In this next video, a bus driver who had been working late shifts for years shares something that completely changed the way he viewed those quiet, empty routes at night, especially because he was used to long hours, isolated roads, and the kind of silence that most people would already find unsettling, yet had never experienced anything he couldn't logically explain until this particular night. After completing his final stop, he did what he always does, checking through his rearview mirror carefully to make sure every passenger had gotten off, scanning each row from front to back until he was certain the bus was completely empty. And once he confirmed there was no one left, he began the drive back to the station, already thinking about heading home to his family after a long day. For a while, everything felt normal. The road quiet, the bus steady, nothing out of place. And then, this happened. Watch. While he is driving, with absolutely no passengers on board, a voice suddenly echoes from inside the bus, loud enough to be clearly heard, saying, "I'm getting off here." But when he checks again, there is no one there. Some believe this could be a case where a past moment somehow imprints itself onto a place and replays under certain conditions, especially in environments like buses that carry countless people and experiences over time. But until more clips are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next video was recorded by David, a name some of you might already recognize, especially if you've been following the channel for a while. For those who don't know, David once brought home a doll, something that seemed harmless at first, maybe even interesting because of its age and appearance, but not long after, he realized it was the biggest mistake of his life. His nights became restless, filled with strange figures appearing in his room, fleeting shapes that never stayed long enough to fully understand, and a voice that would wail in the dark, sometimes calling out different names, none of which he recognized. It got so intense that he eventually locked the doll inside a cage, placing a Bible and rosary on top of it, hoping it would contain whatever was attached to it. But even that didn't stop it. One night, after falling asleep, he had a nightmare so vivid it forced him awake, and when he opened his eyes, he saw this. Watch.
Tenía una pesadilla y despierto. ¿Por qué me estás jodiendo a cada rato? ¿Qué quieres? No entiendo qué es lo que... Ese, el quemado. Ese. Y no sé si escucharon lo que... No entendí muy bien. Pero... algo se escuchó. ¡Ah! Ahora sí sentí mucha adrenalina. Se desenfoca. No sé qué gana. Estoy escuchando música aquí de relajamiento. O sea, estaba durmiendo. Ya son las, ¿qué? 4:51 de la mañana. No entiendo. No entiendo. En serio, ya no sé qué hacer. Alexa, luz del cuarto blanco frío. Joder.
According to David, this isn't something he's seen once. He claims that same face appears to him almost every night, but the moment he switches on the light, it's gone. No movement toward the door, no sound of footsteps, and no space under the bed large enough for anything to hide. Now, did the doll bring something into his life? Or did it simply reveal something that was already waiting? You decide. The following video was recorded by a CCTV camera inside a man's home, capturing something that only came to his attention after he had already left the house for the evening. He had stepped out briefly with his nephew, who was visiting for the holidays, and everything seemed completely normal at the time. The house locked, quiet, and empty, just the way he left it. But on their way back, he received a notification from his security system, the kind that usually signals movement or unexpected activity inside the house. At first, he assumed it was nothing serious, maybe a minor glitch or something small triggering the sensor, but when he opened the footage to check, he saw this.
D. Front. Door. Center. Center is open. Disarm now. Disarm now.
After he shared the video, a lot of people were quick to dismiss it, suggesting that someone must have been inside the house, that the whole thing was staged, or that it was simply a person checking the room before entering. But that explanation raises its own questions, because if it were a person, why do the eyes reflect like that? I'll let you be the judge on this. In this next clip, a man shares an experience that began in the most ordinary way. Something as simple as going downstairs in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, a routine that should have taken only a few minutes, quiet, uneventful, and easily forgotten by morning. But as he made his way through the house, he started hearing something unusual. A voice, faint at first, almost blending into the silence, but clear enough that he knew it wasn't just his imagination. It didn't sound like a television or a phone left playing somewhere, and it definitely didn't sound like something coming from outside. It sounded inside the house. Curious, but uneasy, he decided to trace where it was coming from, slowly moving toward the direction of the sound, trying to make sense of it. And then, he saw a strange figure. Startled, he immediately ran back upstairs, his first instinct not just to get away, but to record it, especially because he had already brought in someone to bless the house before moving in, sensing from the beginning that something about the place didn't feel right. Watch closely.
Entonces pues sí me despertaron y me dio sed. Entonces bajé por un vaso de agua y me regresé corriendo. Quiero que vean esto. A ver si todavía está ahí. Es que siempre que les quiero mostrar algo, parece que desaparece para hacerme quedar mal. No, sí, sigue ahí. No sé si se esté viendo. Hay algo ahí parado. Y está altísimo. No sé qué es. Perdón con la luz, es que mi perro se está atravesando. Y si lo suelto, va y le ladra y me da miedo que vaya a pasar algo. Ay Dios, ahí se ve mejor, pero se ve más feo. Ya, deja de moverte. Perdónenme. ¿Hola? ¿Hola?
Some believe it could be tied to the house itself, something that was already there long before he moved in, and that the blessing may not have fully removed whatever presence remains. There's also the idea that shadows like this are not just random appearances, but deliberate observations, something watching, learning the layout, understanding the person living there. Until more updates are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next clip was recorded by a family's security system, something they originally installed both inside and outside the house for a very practical reason. They foster dogs, and with multiple animals moving in and out over time, they needed a reliable way to monitor activity, keep track of movement, and make sure everything stayed under control, even when they weren't actively watching. For a long time, the cameras only ever captured what they expected. Dogs wandering around, the usual sounds of a busy home, nothing out of the ordinary. But over the past month, something else started appearing, something that doesn't move like a dog and doesn't resemble any adult living in the house either. Have a look.
Alright, so break it down again. Where is it? There's the arm.
Arm, leg. There's another leg walking here.
You see it go over the snow.
Arm, leg, then another leg.
So if that's a leg, what's that? Is that the baby with somebody?
At the moment, they don't believe it's anything dangerous, In their view, with the number of dogs constantly in the house, any real threat, especially something physical, would have triggered a reaction. Dogs are known for their sensitivity to unfamiliar presence, and if something was truly there, they assume the animals would have barked, reacted, or shown signs of distress. But that assumption is exactly what unsettles some viewers. Some theories suggest that certain entities don't register as physical threats, meaning they can exist within a space without triggering the usual instincts in animals. Others believe that if something is subtle enough, it can move through an environment without drawing attention. And then there's a more unsettling possibility that whatever the camera is picking up is already familiar with the space, familiar enough not to disturb the dogs, and familiar enough to move without being challenged. What do you think about this? Or are there some other reasons we're not seeing? The following video was captured by a CCTV camera at Ronald's workplace, a location that, according to several employees, had already been the subject of quiet conversations long before this footage ever surfaced, with workers occasionally mentioning glimpses of black shapes passing through hallways, reflections that didn't match anyone present, and that lingering feeling of being watched even in areas covered by cameras. But it wasn't until this clip went viral that those concerns became impossible to ignore, with many employees reportedly pressuring management to take action, convinced that whatever had been dismissed as imagination was now clearly visible on camera. Watch closely.
Laki nga yung bukas na. Sasara niya ng biglayan kasi nga ganun ba? Nalagay mo sa kitala yan. Nalagay mo sa... Ito lang, ano kami yun. Ayun na po. Kita mo ako paano sa market dito? Ay, hindi. Ang pakahiwaga. Ay, pakpal niya na. Okay, ang lakas nun sa kanya, no?
Dark shapes move through the space, and some viewers believe it's actually one shadow, moving so quickly and unpredictably that it creates the illusion of multiple figures. Others are convinced it's something far more unsettling, that these are multiple shadows, different entities moving within the same space, overlapping, crossing paths, each one existing independently. You be the judge. The following video is about Nate, someone many viewers already recognize for the strange and often unsettling activity that seems to follow him wherever he goes. Over time, people began pointing something out to him, that he might be giving whatever it is too much attention, and that constantly reacting to it could actually be making things worse. So he decided to try something different. He started ignoring it. No reactions, no engagement, just going about his day like nothing was there. But that didn't last long because one morning, this happened. Watch.
Alright. So you people tell me to ignore things, so... Tell me what the fuck that is. I have... things going on in here and in the bathroom right above me, or some upstairs above me at the same time. But, you know, I'll just ignore it. And it's not as simple as people think. unless people experience these things, then it's not as easy as just ignoring it when the shit happens to you. I'm working on it.
Once again, you can hear faint whispers in the background, unclear but definitely there. And what makes this moment even more unsettling is that just seconds before he started recording, the cabinet where the cup falls from was completely closed. Moments like this are why many believe that attention plays a role in these situations. Some say that reacting to activity can strengthen whatever is causing it, almost like feeding it energy, but others argue the opposite, that ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it find other, more aggressive ways to be noticed. And for Nate, it doesn't stop at home, because as much as he deals with this inside his house, his workplace isn't any different. Watch this.
All right. Good morning, ghosts. Happy Friday to you guys, too. Well, I don't really see anything out of place or kind of... Everything looks... Oh. I could feel that. I could feel that. Did I offend you by saying good morning? That's different. All right, I take back the good morning then. Oh, okay. We're gonna do this now. All right. I take back good morning then. Jesus Christ. Well, now the knocking on the walls has started once again. Just figure out, turn the camera on and see if I can catch it, because I mean it was every wall. Like, and it's inside because when it did it on this wall, this and the chains were slightly swaying. So that tells me I wish I can understand what whatever this is wanted.
At the cemetery where he works, something can be heard bang against the walls of the garage over and over again. Not random noises, but heavy, deliberate impacts, like something trying to get his attention from the other side. Some believe this could be tied to the environment itself. Cemeteries are often associated with residual energy, places where emotions, grief, and history linger. Others think it could be something more direct, something that may have attached itself to Nate. following him between locations. And then there's one of the strangest things he's come across at work. Watch.
We have this morning. Just one. No other ones. Just one single claw print or weird handprint. Fingers are super long. They look a little sharp on the edge, like small scratches underneath. And there is it's almost like it was jumping up there, but I don't see anything.
On the floor, there's a deep claw-like marks, just one, as if something appeared, dragged across the surface once, and vanished. Some viewers even claimed to hear whispers toward the end of the clip, though no one could clearly make out what was being said. So what could leave a mark like that? This one remains unsolved. In this next video, a father shares an experience that completely changed the way he sees his own home. For some time, there had been small things he couldn't fully explain, moments where he thought he heard movement late at night, or faint sounds coming from parts of the house that should have been empty. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make him uneasy, but not enough to convince himself something was wrong, until one night, he suddenly woke up to the sound of his son crying, not a soft whimper, but the kind of crying that makes you get up immediately. Without thinking twice, he rushed out of his room to check on him, but something didn't feel right, so he decided to check the camera. Watch closely.
No.
Good.
No.
You can hear it clearly, a child crying, but then something else happens. A figure moves past, and for a brief moment, it looks like the shape of a child. Yet, something about it feels off. The movement isn't natural, the timing doesn't match the crying, and the presence itself feels separate from the sound. And this is where things start to get really disturbing, because when he finally checked on his son was fine. Not crying, not awake, just sleeping, which raises a terrifying possibility. Some viewers believe this could be a case of something imitating familiar sounds to draw attention, possibly to lure someone out of their room. It's a theory often mentioned in cases where voices or cries are heard, but don't match any real person in the house. Others think it could be a shadow figure manifesting briefly, using sound and movement together to make its presence known. But whatever it was, it knew exactly what would get his attention. So if that wasn't his son crying, then what was it? I'll let you be the judge. Now, in this next clip, Isaac, the man living in that old property with 2 haunted sheds, a place already known for strange activity that seems to grow worse over time, shares an update on his current situation. On this particular day, Isaac was doing a live stream, going about things normally, when a strange sound suddenly caught his attention. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make him stop mid-sentence and go check it out. Watch this.
Y'all heard it too. Y'all heard it too? Because I know I heard something. I know I'm not going crazy. I'm standing right here with y'all. I'm standing right here with y'all. My hands. My hands. I'm standing right here with y'all. Just burn the whole house at this point. I can't. They ain't got nowhere to live. Fuck. Oh. Ah. Ooh. Ow. Oh. Hit my leg. I hit my knee so bad. Oh my God, that hurt. Oh.
Isaac had previously explained that this room used to belong to the grandfather who owned the land, and according to family members, he always preferred warm temperatures. It was something very specific about him, something only people close to him would know. And just to rule out any easy explanations, Isaac made it clear during the live stream that the other remote was in the living room, and the remotes don't control each other, something he had tested before when he once misplaced one of them. So if no one was in the room, and no remote was being used, then what turned it on? Some viewers believe this could be the grandfather's presence, something familiar, almost routine, repeating what he used to do when he was alive. But others aren't so convinced, because what happens next changes the tone completely. Tired of everything happening around him, Isaac eventually decided to bless the house, and for a few days, things were quiet. Almost too quiet, until this happened. Watch.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Like I said, I've left the living room and I've officially moved into the bedroom now, and it's what the hell? Well, well, I was gonna say that it's been pretty calm all day. Somebody did ask me if they blessed the sheds, and the answer is no. They actually didn't. For some reason, my landlord was pretty adamant about leaving the sheds alone. We did the furthest one where the memorial is, but the one near the house and the one with the car in it, she was absolutely adamant that that would not be blessed, that would not be touched, and so we didn't touch it. I didn't ask any questions. Her reaction wasn't like mean or anything. She was just like, yeah, I don't like that's not a good idea. Almost kind of like, nah, just leave it alone type of thing. So, I mean, other than that, it's been a really good day. It's been a really damn good day, to be perfectly honest with you. Why are my windows so foggy? Look at this. Look how foggy my windows are. Look, these two. Can you even see it? I don't even know if you can see it. It's like mad condensation. Why is there so much condensation on my flipping window? I didn't run. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say, to be perfectly honest with you, but guess I'll go ahead and finish getting ready for work. Watching Wicked while I get dressed. Alright, talk to you later.
A door suddenly closes on its own, the light shuts off, and for those listening closely with headphones, some claim they can hear a faint voice saying, "Go away." And that's what really unsettled people, because if that voice is real, then whatever is there doesn't just exist, it has intent. Some viewers believe this might be a reaction to the blessing itself. There's a theory that if a space is only partially cleansed, whatever is there can simply move to the uncleansed areas. And in Isaac's case, that would be the sheds. And there's another layer to this. Isaac mentioned he wasn't allowed to cleanse the sheds, which raises a disturbing possibility. If something is tied to those sheds, and you cleanse only the house, then you're not removing it, you're cornering it. And according to many who study these cases, that can make whatever's there more aggressive. So now the question is, was that the grandfather making his presence known? Or was it something else entirely? Something that doesn't want Isaac on that property anymore? You decide.